Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I just wanted to jump on real quick and do a recap of the first week of Diddy's trial and day number 6. Well, day number 7, but I don't know what happened today, but I'm going to tell y'all what's been going on in it every day up until today. As always, I'm Marcus. I'm a licensed attorney here. We do attorney reactions to trending news, topics, and current events. I'm going to give y'all one other story before we jump into the Diddy stuff. Disclaimer: licensed attorney, not your attorney, not legal, financial news, advice, none of that good stuff, just infotainment purposes. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this first video. People are giving famous athletes pretty much giving a bad look on their name. We all know Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player. Now we all know, or if you don't know, Carmelo Anthony, who stabbed a young man, and now it's a big racial issue because he was black. The victim was white. It's going to be interesting. There was a GoFundMe that was shut down, but another platform raised money. So Carmelo Anthony had somebody ruin his name, and this young man, close enough, not exactly the name. We're going to talk about Jaden Daniel, not the quarterback to my favorite Washington Commanders. But we're going to dive in and talk about it. I heard this story. It was interesting. It gave me a few thoughts, but you know what? I want to know what y'all think. So let's go ahead, play, so we can talk about what's going on in this story.
Atlanta mother is grieving as her son is on the run, accused of killing her husband. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us here for Fox 5 News at 5. I'm Tom Haynes.
I'm Courtney Bryant. Newton County deputies say 41-year-old David Gay was shot and killed by his stepson in the family home last evening. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor just talked with the wife of the victim, who is also the mother of the suspect.
All right. What is your very first thought? I want to know before we even watch this whole video, because there's not a lot of information out there. But I want to know, what is your very first thought when you hear that stepson killed his stepfather? What is your very first thought? Where do your mind go? Do your mind go to, man, this is a wild kid who may have some problems, maybe some crazy YN? Or do your mind go to, I wonder what was going on in the household? Well, if he did it for a reason. Let me know which direction your mind go. I'm not. What's going on, Maddie? I appreciate you for dropping the first comment of the day. Thank you as always. But let me know. I'm not sure what happened, but this is kind of wild. I've seen situations, and I've represented young persons who had beat the hell out of their step parents. Always the boys, or like really jacked them up. Didn't shoot them, but really jacked them up, like baseball bat type. And in that situation, what had came into fruition, or what we came to find out through evidence, that there was a pattern of abuse by the stepfather, which directly related to the stepson deciding, you know what, I'm about to whip this guy's ass. Not saying that's the case here, but that is a scenario that I've seen it. Let's go and finish watching the rest of this video.
Just talked with the wife of the victim, who is also the mother of the suspect. A lot to take in for this woman. Angelique.
Good afternoon to you both. This Newton County mother is an emotional wreck. She clearly says she loves her husband, who was killed just last night. But tonight her plea is to her son, who is accused of murder and on the run. She says she wants him to turn himself in. Now, we just talked with her minutes ago. Take a listen.
Please turn yourself in. This is the ultimate breaking for me, and I said I couldn't lose another child.
All right, she can't lose another child. Actually, let it play before we talk about that. So she clearly lost a child before she's about to lose this one. Lost her husband. Terrible situation, but I want to know y'all thoughts on that.
And I lost my husband. And now I really can't lose another child. David loved you. He loved me. He loved Kennedy, and he loved his family. He loved like you guys were his own. So if you see this, or if anybody sees this who has any information or who can contact Jaden, please let him know that I love him.
All right, so let's talk about this real quick. I don't know. One, hey, shout out to everybody who want to be a step parent. So all the step parents out there, y'all are a different breed, because I don't know if I could do it. But she clearly has lost a son. I believe she lost another son a year prior to gun violence. Now she lost her husband based on gun violence at the hand of her son. Hey, stop. Stop it. Go downstairs, please. Damn dog, always doing something he don't need to do. Hard headed. Again, I'm going to be interested, and I'm going to try to keep a tab on the facts of this story, because I want to know what the circumstances of facts was. Again, it could be that Jaden Daniel was just wilding out and was like, you know what? It is what it is. It could be an option. That's not normally what I've seen in my experience. I'm not an expert in this type of family trauma and situations, but I have represented a few people who were children, ages, I would say 16 to 17, who have either severely beat the hell out of a stepdad. And in the two instances that I did it, it was normally associated with some type of mistreatment with either that child or another younger sibling. Not saying that's the case, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know. I don't know the background of this, but to have lost one child and have another child shoot his stepfather, I don't know. I'm not sure what the dynamics of the family are, but we all can understand that again, crazy shit happen to great families too. But there are some things, whether it's poverty, whether it's education, socioeconomic status, there are other things that factors into families who repeatedly experience situations like these. I mean, everybody have a one-off. I know, hey, I lost a sibling to gun violence. That happens, but I've seen families who lost every sibling, 5 siblings, all of them gone, gun violence. Then you starting to look at, what are these factors that put people at risk for this type of behavior? And that's what you see. Let's go ahead and finish watching this story. Then we're going to jump in to what went on with Diddy stuff.
Now, Newton County deputies confirm both Gay and Daniel lived in the same house together on Avery Drive in Covington. Deputies say Daniel opened fire on his stepfather last night, then fled the scene in his stepfather's Cadillac Escalade. Now, they found that Escalade at a nearby park, Denny Dobbs Park, but Daniel was nowhere to be found. Now, his mom says after losing one son last year to murder and gun violence, and that was Kendarius Spear, and a husband just last night to gun violence, David Gay, she says she does not want to lose another family member. Now, Mrs. Gay says she was not at home and she does not know what happened. We will have much more of her interview tonight at 6.
Now, this is going to be interesting to see. Mom's not at home. It's just him and the decedent, the stepfather, mom's husband. He's not there. So, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. One thing that's going to be favorable for young Jaden Daniel and his attorney is the only story or version of what happened that's going to be told is what he says. There's nobody else there to contradict his version of the facts. Definitely fleeing the scene is something that makes it factually more difficult for Jaden Daniels, the defendant in this case. In a perfect world, if something like that happened and it is associated with some type of abuse or assault, hey, you want to act as if you're a person who was scared and was genuinely assaulted, not like somebody who's on the run. But I thought this was a crazy story, very wild. I'm waiting for the facts of it to come out. I don't know. I don't know. I need to know what type of person Jaden Daniels is before I can probably see where this is going. Was he a good student? What type of friends he had? I will tell you, he generally has the look of somebody. If I see him walking down the street, I'm going to go on the other side. But the funny thing is, that dude hairstyle, the same hairstyle as my son. So, I mean, you can't call it. You don't know. He could be a suburban kid who's a science nerd, or he could be somebody who out here thugging it up. We don't know enough about the facts at this point, but I thought that story was interesting. Now, let's go ahead and turn the page to our guy, Sean Combs. And I saw a funny video. If y'all have never watched the Double Toasted podcast, shout out to them. Y'all need to check it out because they did a funny video where they were talking about the artwork that was associated with the courtroom drawings of Diddy. But let's talk about where his trial is at right now. When I went through the original indictment, I don't know if you all remember, but I concluded that with saying that personally, I think he's screwed, okay? I think just what they're alleging and what we know to be true just from video and what Cassie said prior to trial and what she insinuated to, this guy was going to probably be screwed. But now we're going to break it out a little bit more. I wish they would have told us what the plea agreement was for. I don't know what it was for. If I had to guess, I would say prior to trial, with all of the charges that he's looking at, 5 charges, I don't know. With all of the charges he's looking at, I would guess that he was probably offered somewhere between 20 to 25 years. 20 to 25 years. Let's say he did 75%, 80% of that. I mean, 15 years he could be out. I think Diddy is 55, 60, out when he's 70. I'm going to be honest, if I was his attorney, especially once I looked at the discovery, I probably would have been like, yo, it's in your best interest to take this 20-year sentence with good behavior. You can get out in this time. If he declined it like Diddy has done, he didn't want to take the plea. This just as a lesson, attorneys, young attorneys out there, this is where you make your client actually sign paperwork explaining the terms of the plea and that they are declining to take the plea on this date. Because I already know what is I ain't gonna say it will happen, but there's a high probability of happening in cases where they aren't associated with celebrities. Oftentimes you have a client, his case and the facts are kind of ass. You don't really have much to work with. The prosecution offers a plea before trial because that's the best deal that you're probably going to get. When they offer that plea, the defendant declines the plea. They go to trial. He loses. He gets 2-3 times that plea agreement. And then he files a complaint with the state bar saying, my attorney never informed me about the plea agreement. So in order not to get caught up in an ineffective assistance of counsel claim, what you normally would do is the minute my client says, I don't want to take the plea, I'll be like, okay, you're not taking this plea. I go draft up a 1-page document saying on this date, I explained this plea agreement that was being offered by the prosecution. You declined this plea agreement in lieu of a jury trial. And I'll be like, you need to sign and date. Then once they sign and date that, I fold it up, put it in my file. So if and when he goes to trial, if he has ass facts like Diddy has, and he gets convicted and gets 3 times what the plea agreement was, he can't come back and jam me up or his attorney up for ineffective assistance of ineffective assistance of counsel. What's going on, Pretty Eyes Covenant? I appreciate you for tuning in. 15 years, bro, 60, 70. Nah, bro. When you got money, people living to like 90. People living like the 90. Nah, that's not a life sentence. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I would have took I think it would have been in his best interest. What did he have to lose? What if he lived to be 90 years old? I mean, rest in peace, Irv Gotti. He could tap out young like Irv Gotti, but what if he lived to be 85, 90 years old? He gonna be resenting that shit. Now, I will tell you before I go over this case, if I were Diddy, you know what I would do? This sounds crazy. This actually sounds crazy, but I think is a legitimate shot. If someone in power is a transactional person, the great thing about that is there is a deal to be made. Again, I would have taken the plea agreement, set until Trump was on his last 6 months in office, and see if I could get my people to see if President Trump would be willing to give me a pardon and get these charges up out of me. Like, hey, I know, hey, Trump loves his friends. He fired a federal prosecutor for not agreeing to give Mel Gibson back his firearm rights after he lost them due to ridiculous behavior. Transactional president, I would have took the 20 years. I'd have probably had to do 15 at about year 3.5. I'd have had my people reach out to the Trump campaign and be like, yo, y'all should give my guy a pardon. He's done some great things since he's been in custody, blah, blah, blah. It could work. I mean, I think that's a viable option when you got a transactional president. That's just my opinion. All right, so let's go into this. Week 1, we're on week 1 has passed. Now we're on day 7. 5 charges, 3 separate crimes. Let me move this over to this side. No, I'm not going to put my notes on the screen because my notes, normally I would put my notes on the screen, but I mean, like, my notes kind of like, they got all sorts of grammatical errors. I want y'all to think I'm a complete dumbass. All right, 5 charges, 3 separate crimes, racketeering, being one of the more serious with racketeering. There's a few things that have to be proven. We talked about this in the RICO thing before because the question was, would it apply to Tiffany Henyard? The answer is yes, it could. For a racketeering charge, for a RICO charge, you have to prove 1, the establishment of a criminal organization. Bad Boy Entertainment, the mob, the cartel, Trende Agua. You have to prove that a criminal organization exists. There has to be an agreement between persons to facilitate crimes, and there has to be a pattern. Now, what do we mean by a pattern? That means that in order to be convicted of a RICO, you have to have some prerequisite crimes. Sometimes they call them RICO predicates. Other time they call underlying offenses to equate to a RICO, however you want to call it. But essentially, it's alleged that 23 crimes were committed by Diddy. Some of these crimes include sex trafficking, forced labor, bribery, obstruction of justice, sex trafficking by force, and the Mann Act violation. Now, the other ones, you already know what it is. What is the Mann Act? We talked about this before when we went through his complaint. The Mann Act has historical background during slavery. Slaves were getting their freedoms, and there were a lot of slaves who went up north with some snow bunnies, and that was extremely frowned upon. Shout out if you want to read a book, Scarlet Sister Murray by Scarlet Sister Murray by Julia Peterkin is about my ancestors, and Julia Peterkin was a white woman from rural South Carolina whose family owned a plantation that my family was on and subsequently ended up owning. But it was interesting because she wrote a book. It was a book that talked about how Bright enslaves in a positive light. It was in the fiction section in South Carolina. Then it was not in the library at all. Then she went to New York where she could actually publish this book. It's an actual dope book. If you wanted to check it out, it's called Scarlet Sister Murray, one of my favorite books personally. But she liked to go to New York. She talked fond of Black persons. That was extremely frowned upon back in those times. So a law was passed called the Mann Act. The Mann Act essentially made it a crime to travel across state lines with a woman for the purposes of debauchery. Well, DFD, what the hell is debauchery? I don't know. Debauchery is whatever you want to define it as. Debauchery is whatever I think it is, whatever the prosecutor thinks it is, whatever the cop thinks it is. But that's what the Mann Act originated from. It started with those kind of racist ties. And what it transferred into now and evolved into is transportation of a woman across state lines for prostitution, a sex act, or something to that effect. So those are some of the 23 crimes that Diddy is charged with. Now, RICO predicates, essentially what that means is well, let's talk about that a little bit later. Let's pivot right now, talk about the persons who so far, excluding today, have been called as witnesses. We got a gentleman by the name of Mr. Flores, who is a LAPD police officer, I believe. But he was actually working at the hotel as security. In the video footage we seen where Diddy was abusing and assaulting Cassie. Another witness that we have is Mr. Phillips. Mr. Phillips is a male escort. He essentially got on the stand, testified to him being paid compensation to perform sex acts with Cassie. He stated that Cassie didn't appear to be a willing participant at all times. Now, of course, we have Cassie, who testified as to the abuse, as to the trafficking, as to the prostitution. We have Don Richards, who is a member of Danity Kane and was also in the group Dirty Money. And she testified to seeing the abuse of Cassie and being instructed by force or coercion not to tell anyone. And we also got Homeland Security Special Agents. What the hell do the Homeland Security Special Agents know? They executed the raids on Diddy Mansion, so they have all the evidence and the factual knowledge related to any guns, related to the drugs that were seized, related to any audio, video footage that was seized at the time, chain of custody issues, all of those things. Those are the 5 witnesses so far who are probably, I'm not going to say probably the most important, because I'm sure there's going to be even crazier shit. But these 5 witnesses in just this first week have proven to kick Diddy in the nuts, and it's probably the reason why he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life instead of taking the potential 20 years, which I would have done. What's good, E-Todd? I appreciate you tuning in, brother, as always. All right. So let's go ahead and pivot. What is the easiest crime to prove? Based on the testimony we heard so far, I think it's transportation to engage in prostitution, 18 U.S.C. 2421. Well, why is that the easiest? Because, I mean, everybody essentially just got on the stand and testified to it. This is the spinoff of the former racist-ass Mann Act. This has evolved into what it is now. Cassie has testified, and Mr. Phillips had testified that he has traveled across state lines to engage in prostitution, to which he receives compensation, and sometimes being paid as high as $4,000 to clap cheeks. Cassie, again, alleges similar things, even though there was no money transferred. Her position is that there was a threat of force because he held her career over his hand, her career, her ability to make a livelihood, and she was just scared of this guy. So now one of the things that they got to look at is, was there intent? Did Diddy, in fact, have criminal intent for prostitution? I think the answer is yes. This can easily be proven by Cassie and the male sex worker, Mr. Phillips, who testified. Based on that alone, 2 of the counts of all of these accusations are really easily proven. Did you transport people across state lines for money to clap cheeks? The prostitute testified to it. Cassie's testified to it. It wasn't actual monetary compensation, but force coercion that was used was financial strings of her career, and, you know, by force, fear, clearly. All right, next up, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. These are counts 2 and 4. Knowingly caused a person to engage in commercial sex act, and the means were forced or coerced and done across state lines. What's going on? I appreciate you tuning in, sis. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate it. I read somewhere that Trump may pardon Diddy if convicted. Is that literally, like, you just jumped in, but that was the first thing that was one of the first things I said in the first 5 minutes. Shout out to you. I'm gonna give you a round of applause, co-counsel, for using your legal gears they're turning. That was one of the very first things that I said once I got through the previous story we talked about. If it were me, I expressly said, hey, his plea was probably for somewhere between 20 to 25 years. I'm assuming, I don't know. If it was best case scenario, 20 years, he looking at doing 75% of that. 75, 80%, he could potentially be out in 15, 17, depending on the situation, years. At 55, 15 years puts him at 70. 70 is not that. I mean, my pops is 76 and still raising hell. 70 is not that old, especially when you got a bag and you can have the greatest. You can be taken care of and have the resources to take care of yourself. And I agree. I said I would have done that. I would have set my ass down for the next 3.5 years. I would have wrote children's book. I would have got a legit degree, not some BS degree that Howard gave me because I donated money. I would have tried to do. I'd have became Tukey Williams in there. I would have had books and did things for the community and children. And the Sean Combs Foundation would have been donating money all across the board for 3.5 years. And then I'd have had my people reach out to President Trump, who we all know is transactional. And if there's a deal to be made, he's willing to make it, and see if I could have got my pardon. That's what I would have did. Now, he still can get a pardon, but the thing is, now if there's a lot of pressure and he doesn't get a pardon, he loses at trial, he's going to be just sitting there for the rest of his life. 40, 50 years. That's crazy as hell. But hey, shout out to you. Nah, you good. Hey, better late than never. Shout out to you. That was a great point. He won't be big pimping in 70 years. I don't know, man. Did they just hit up? Who was it? Was it Smokey Robinson? Got accused of sexual assault. Civil, but hey, age has no hey, I'm not saying Smokey did anything. I'm just saying that age doesn't necessarily stop stupidity. Sometimes some people don't age out of stupidity. All right, so for sex trafficking by force, fraud, coercion, which are counts 2 and 4, the elements that the government has to prove is that the defendant, Sean Combs, knowingly caused the person to engage in a commercial sex act. Commercial mean for money, bread, dough, cheese, skrilla, dinero, green cabbage, whatever you want to call it. So engaged in a commercial sex act, and the means were by force, coerced, and done across state lines. All right, so the first element, did Diddy knowingly cause a person to engage in a commercial sex act? Clearly, Cassie said Diddy had her career in the palm of his hand. He signed her to some contract that was like 20 years or some crazy ass shit. She thought that her career was in jeopardy, and she complied out of fear, is what she testified to. The male sex worker, Mr. Phillips, also said that, again, he was paid at times as high as $4,000 to have a cheek clapping session with Cassie, which he testified that Diddy orchestrated and planned everything down from the position to the baby oil amount, all of these things. Now, element 2, force threat or force. Phillips said that he saw Combs abuse Cassie, okay? Because my first thought was the sex worker forced to do this? Because let's just be honest. If I'm Diddy's lawyer, I'm like, nah, bro, didn't you agree to this in exchange for you not having charges brought up against you for being a male trollop? And that's a valid question. And it does show that he has some personal interest in testifying against Diddy here. But for force threat, Mr. Phillips said that he saw Diddy abuse Cassie, and at times she did look like she didn't want to be there. He also said because of this, he feared Mr. Combs because of his wealth, his reach, and some of the violent acts that he see him committed towards Cassie. Cassie just testified that the freak offs were not optional. During cross-examination, I think that Diddy's team did actually a good job to potentially paint the narrative that Cassie was an active, willing participant and that she was down for whatever. I think some of the problems that they're going to have in getting a jury to buy that hook, line, and sinker is the discrepancy of power and her age. It's one thing if I finesse and I con a woman who's 37 years old and I'm a 40-year-old man. But if I'm a 40-year-old man and there's an 18-year-old woman and I put some pressure on her, yeah, you could say she's a willing participant by some of her statements and text messages, But the imbalance in power between age, maturity, brain development, financial resources, I think it's going to be just not a strong argument. Let me see. I think Smokey is innocent myself. Hey, I don't know. When I see these charges come up and it's just civil and it's relatively recent, I have cause to pause too. But Cassie stated that she feared cones. She didn't think that they were optional. So the coercion or the force was emotional and financial coercion, and also the use of drugs. If I give you drugs and you're using drugs, you are being coerced. You're not in your right mind to make a decision on if you want to participate or not. And Cassie also testified that Diddy attempted and used force by blackmailing her. If you don't do this, I'm gonna ruin your career. If you don't do this, I'm going to put out this cheek clapping footage of you. There was even one situation where I think Cassie tried to leave and Diddy was upset, and Cassie's parents actually had to take out like a home equity line of credit for $20,000 in order to pay Diddy back. He ultimately returned the check, but hey, the force, the coercion is there. Now, this part is interesting. The prosecutors did, in fact, play the video of Diddy assaulting Cassie in the hotel, and they played like the unredacted version. It was no audio, but it was actually like 10 times more terrible. I'm not going to show it, but it's actually 10 times. You can find it on YouTube, but it was 10 times more terrible than the video footage that actually leaked. Again, the leaked footage, I think, was from the prosecution side because it takes the jury in their favor because Diddy said he didn't do it. Then this video comes out. Now everybody in the world knows that you are a liar. Now, people are going to ask, how was this video able to be admitted as evidence? Okay, hearsay. I think we all know what hearsay is, but if we don't, the legal definition is an out-of-court statement that's being used for the truth of the matter asserted. Now, we know what an out-of-court statement is. It's something that's not said out of court. The reason courts don't like hearsay is because if it's not in court, it's not under oath, and we don't know the truthfulness of this statement. So an out-of-court statement, we know what that is. And the part that can get a little weird is for the truth of the matter asserted. What that means is if that video of Diddy assaulting Cassie was coming into evidence, let's not use that video because that's not because that's direct evidence. Let's use, and they would have people who corroborate it. Let's say they didn't have video, but they just had a witness who saw this event and he made a statement outside of court. All right, it's an out-of-court statement. That's the first part of it being hearsay. For the truth of the matter asserted means this out-of-court statement, in this example, the out-of-court statement of this witness is being used to prove that Diddy, in fact, committed an assault. So in that situation, if there was no video, there was just a witness, he made a statement out of court, they wanted to introduce his statement, that statement would not get in because it's hearsay. It's an out-of-court statement, and it's being used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. They're introducing this guy's statement, out-of-court statement, to prove that Diddy, in fact, did assault someone. Now, same fact pattern. Let's say you got a guy who testified that, hey, he made a statement out of court that I seen this assault. Now, I could actually get it submitted into evidence. And you're like, well, wait. How could you get it submitted into evidence? You just told me it's an out-of-court statement is being used for the truth of the matter asserted. They're admitting that statement to prove that Diddy assaulted Cassie. Truth of the matter asserted. We're asserting assault. We're using this to prove assault. It's out-of-court statement. It can't come in. Well, an attorney would be able to get that evidence allowed if that same statement isn't being used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. If that same statement is not being used to prove the assault. So what that would look like, it wouldn't come in if it's coming in because it was an out-of-court statement, and that statement of observing Diddy assault Cassie was being admitted to prove he committed assault. If it's an out-of-court statement and it's being admitted not to prove that Diddy committed an assault, but to prove the state of mind of the victim, Your Honor, we're not admitting this evidence to prove that Diddy committed an assault, because that would be hearsay, out of court statement for the truth of the matter asserted. We're admitting this evidence to prove this mind state of the victim, that she was in fact scared, that she actually feared for her life, that she was threatened by force, that her mind state, she wasn't in a place to make a decision because she felt compelled by force. That's so same evidence. Being one case, it wouldn't be admitted if it's coming in to prove the assault. But if it's coming in not to prove the assault, but to prove the state of mind of the victim, it would come in. I know that was a little convoluted, and hearsay is weird. Law students struggle with the truth of the matter asserted. Hell, I struggle with it, but I mean, it is what it is. But so people will ask, well, how come this video is admitted? Well, they're not admitting the video to prove that Diddy assaulted Cassie. They were admitting the video to prove the state of mind of the victim, that she was in fact scared, that she was coerced by force, manipulation. She wasn't in the right mind state where she had free will to choose to leave because she couldn't leave. That's how that video got in. Yeah. Flying escorts from state to state is sex trafficking. Hey, I'm sure right now in Hollywood and a bunch of other places, girls are getting flued out and cheek clapping sessions happen. Unfortunately for Diddy, he was powerful, he was popular, and he had a lot of enemies. So, but yeah, if you fly someone in, like, yo, I met this girl off of IG, she's super thick, she's super clapalicious. I'm gonna fly you out. Come on out to Miami, hang out with your boys. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna take care of everything. You can shop while you're here. She was trafficked across state lines. Definitely a violation of the Mann Act for sure. I mean, hey, the question is, should people's sexual proclivities be criminalized? Like, hey, I like this type of like. It is a. I see both sides of the argument, but yes, in fact, is a crime. I learned so MDJ, what's good, bro? I learned so much about sex trafficking. I always looked at sex trafficking for what I saw in shows and movies. People chained up and people being sold for sex against their own will. Yeah, but a lot of times it's not like some Black Snake Moan, somebody handcuffed to a furnace or something like that. Yeah. I was in Montreal this last weekend and went to the strip club for the first time in my life. And someone sitting behind was talking to his friend. He said, no woman sells her body by choice, time, and circumstances. Forced her, I heard, and left immediately, completely blank. Wow. He said, no woman sells her body by choice, time, and circumstances. Forced her, I heard. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When I was like, I knew someone who, well, I didn't know her, but I met someone who actually worked at like a brothel overseas, and she was like a PhD student at like the University of Maryland, Europe. And I was like, yo, why the hell? Like, y'all gonna like DFD was at the club. Nah, actually, hey, my lady with me because we used to film this show called NIF, Ninjas in Frankfurt, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, she said she made something crazy like 4,000 euros a week to work like 15 hours. It was crazy. I mean, 15 hours is a lot of fucking dough. Hey, pardon my language, that's a lot. But hey, she made a crazy amount of money. So, I mean, hey, facts and circumstances make people do some wild things. I agree, but nobody care about nobody care about broke people like me if I do it. Yeah. Sounds like a story. Ninjas in Frankfurt. Maybe I'll tell that story one day. Maybe I'll tell that story one day. Okay, so prosecutors played the video unredacted. They were able to get it admitted because it was not hearsay, because that video wasn't being admitted to prove that Diddy committed assault. It was being admitted to prove the state of mind of Cassie, that she was fearful. That's how they got that video in. Now, Don Richards, Danity Kane, Dirty Money member, says that Combe attacked Cassie with a skillet, which is wild because I know he ain't cooking shit. He got a chef. That's actually crazy. But he said he attacked her with skillet, and she saw him drag her upstairs. Subsequently, Dawn testified that Diddy had like locked her and the rest of the group members in like the studio and were like, yo, don't tell nobody about this. If you talk about it, don't talk about the abuse to Cassie. We gonna not record. I'm gonna shut y'all career down. Blah blah blah. So again, force coercion is the pattern that they were looking to build here. All right, we know commercial sex, carrying someone across state lines for sex, not a crime. Carrying someone across state lines for commercial sex, crime. So now RICO. Let's talk about RICO because we talked about what it was. It has to be, in order to have a RICO, and RICO is a real funny charge, but you have to prove that there's a criminal organization. Sinaloa Cartel, La Costa Nostra, Trende Agua, Bad Boy Entertainment. So there has to be proven that there's a criminal enterprise. Here, the criminal enterprise is Bad Boy Entertainment. That's number one. Who says number one like this? What the hell? That was wild. That's number one. That's number one. Number two is an agreement to participate. An agreement to participate. One, so part of that is, did he know, or did Diddy know, have the intent to know that this was an orchestrated event? The answer is yes. The other part was there agreement between other persons and him to facilitate these things? We have the drug mules who've been testifying that, we were instructed to bring drugs and we would wear fanny packs full of Tusi and all these crazy wild ass drugs that I've heard of them, but I think only rich ass people use them, not regular folks like me. But people are going to testify that they were drug mules. People are going to testify that they were directed to go out and find sex workers and prostitutes. People are going to testify that they were directed to bring baby oil. Gene Deal did a video where he self-snitched on himself and included himself in this, testified that I wasn't bringing drugs and everything because I wasn't in all of that BS. I just brought the condoms. I'm like, bro, why would you say that? But Gene Deal implicated himself by saying that he was the condom bringer to these freak-offs. So you have to have an agreement to participate, have to be proof of a criminal enterprise, and a pattern of racketeering activity or the RICO predicates that we talked about before. Now, this is how RICO is wild. Typically, most, not all, but most federal crimes have about a 5-year statute of limitations. Some are more or less, depending on the severity, where it's classified as, but on average, 5-year statute of limitation. A RICO predicate, it gives prosecutors a 10-year window to look at crimes and say, hey, if we can prove that you had a criminal organization, Bad Boy Entertainment, that you act in concert and in agreement with others to facilitate these crimes, and we can prove that 2 crimes happened in the past 10 years that shows a pattern of RICO racketeering activity, we can hem your ass up. So some of the crimes that they're going to prove as RICO predicates could potentially be outside of the statute of limitations, but because RICO gives a 10-year look back, is not whether Diddy can be prosecuted and convicted of those crimes. It's just, can we prove those crimes? And that's actually the debate of a lot of legal arguments. I'm not going to go into that right now. But some of the RICO predicate crimes that they have listed that they have to prove are kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, forced labor, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, transportation for prostitution. Now, of these, just with the people we talked about and the testimony that was given, I think a few of these at least 2 of these have been proven already. Bribery and obstruction of justice. The police officer, his name was Officer Flores, who at the time, Officer Flores was the security at the hotel. He testified that Diddy tried to break him off in exchange for him not talking about it. Could be why the video went missing for such a long time and we didn't see it till decades later. But if he stands and testifies that Diddy offered me cash to get rid of this evidence and nobody saw it for 10 years, yeah, you probably proved that a bribe had in fact occurred. Obstruction of justice. Would that be obstruction of justice? Yes, that is evidence of a crime. Evidence of a crime. He made sure to take steps to ensure that that evidence wouldn't make it to prosecutors or law enforcement. So just off the testimony that we talked about, bribery, check. Obstruction of justice, check. Transportation for prostitution. Mr. Phillips, the sex worker, had already said that Diddy paid him up to $4,000 on some occasion to fly across state lines and clap Cassie's cheeks. Forced labor, use of force, Cassie's testimony. Like, honestly, 1, 2, bribery, proven. Obstruction of justice, proven. Forced labor, probably proven. Transportation for prostitution, proven. Drug trafficking, I don't think we got any testimony to that, but the minute someone does get up there to testify, probably going to be proven. Of course, his attorney is going to say, did Mr. Combs directly, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out because, like, you can win a trial if you have a few facts and have an attorney who can do very effective cross-examination, which I burnt someone up with today. But when you got 30 witnesses you got to cross-examine, it's going to become taxing to be able to have the facts and the wordplay and the line of questioning to trip every fucking witness up. I just don't think it's going to be possible. I'm interested to see the witness with regards to the arson. The arson is related to allegedly Diddy paid someone to blow up Kid Cudi's car because he was upset that Rihanna was linking with Kid Cudi. That was why he cut her off. And Cassie's mother had to pay back $20,000 to Diddy, and they took a home equity line of credit out because he was like, I paid all this money for her. And Cassie's mother testified to that, which is actually crazy. All right, let me go ahead and check out some of these comments real quick. Yeah. Best girlfriend I had was a stripper back in the 90s. She made bank. Hey, there's a lot of people who go to strip clubs and make it rain. I'm not one of them. I've been to a strip club before about 5 or 6 times in my life. Yes, I paid the women, but it wasn't in the boom boom room. It wasn't for a lap dance. Like, I clearly like to talk, and I would just sit there and talk, and 2 songs went by. They get paid by the song. I didn't know that. Like, they get a certain amount of songs they dance before the next dancer gets on stage. And if I sat there and talked their ear off for 2 songs, I actually feel bad. Like, oh shit, they could have been making money. So I'd be like, yo, let me give you some money to make up for the 2 songs that you missed over here flapping my gums, talking about me asking dumbass questions. I think myself, Cassie has Stockholm syndrome. Of course, that's a real thing. Stockholm syndrome, for those of you who don't know, is essentially a psychological concept of a person, a victim, essentially falls in love with their abuser because, like there are women out there who have been like sexually assaulted, and because they were sexually assaulted, they subsequently like get into like they go on a date, they get sexually assaulted. Excuse me. They subsequently enter into a relationship with the person, and on his face, you're like, yo, that's fucking crazy. Why would you do that? And then like someone had to explain it to me, like, oh, some victims do that to justify what happened to them. So in their mind, they can say, oh, I wasn't sexually assaulted because subsequently he became my boyfriend or my man. So, I mean, that's a real thing. And I agree with you. Now we know why he called himself P. Diddy, P-E-E Diddy. Facts. Let's see real quick. Yeah, you can't accept the bribe, bro. Accepting the bribe just ask New York Mayor Eric Adams. Even though his got dismissed, it'll probably come back up the minute Trump is out of office. They have a year left to bring it. But yeah, just ask Eric Adams. Yeah, soliciting a bribe and accepting a bribe, both crimes. Each person is charged with a crime. Here's Terrence. Here's what I seriously want to know. How can a man watch another man clap his woman's cheeks? Like, I don't know. That's crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't relate. Like, maybe if like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. He's Diddy. I think it's just different rules to this. Diddy has probably had the finest of the fine women for 30 years, right? The baddest ones out there for 30 years. So I don't know. After a while, he probably was like, you know what? I'm tired of. I got so many women. I'm tired of it. I want to see other people get fine women. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't relate. But hey, there are people out there who are like that. Generally, you would be like, if somebody was cool with that, you probably really didn't give a damn about the woman in the first place. But nah. According to 50 Cent, 50 Cent was like, he saw the video and was like, yo, this your girl? You like her? And then he was like, nah, man, I really, really like her. And he was like, so hey, some people, that's their thing. Couldn't be me. Y'all didn't hear that story on the Breakfast Club about a guy who posted on Reddit how he talked his girlfriend into going to like a sex club and he thought he was getting over until it was his girl's turn. And then he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But he couldn't because he was able to partake. So he had to let her partake. That story was funny as hell. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that Diddy has already lost his case. They only needed to prove 2 of the 23 crimes had occurred in the past 10 years. And I think bribery, obstruction of justice, forced labor, transportation for prostitution, sex trafficking, all were proven within the first 5 to 6 days. So absolutely terrible. And, I mean, it's absolutely terrible in the sense that, you should have took the plea and just try to convince President Trump to give you a pardon in 3 years. That would have been his best game plan. Since we're talking about rappers who are in custody, before we leave out, this used to be one of my favorite rappers too. I want to pull this up because when I saw it, I was actually like, man, I forgot all about this dude. This dude's still in custody. He still ain't have a trial yet. And actually, he's a terrible person, allegedly. But I saw this and I forgot all about this rapper who was in, let's see. I don't know if y'all know this, but hey, back in the day, this was 1 day ago. I forgot all about this rapper who was in custody. I want to go ahead and let me see real quick. Fuck no. I would love for him to take the stand. It's no way. It's no way he gonna take the stand. Now I will tell you, as an attorney, I would highly advise him not to take the stand, but the trial strategy is the attorney's call. I can dictate the strategy that we're going to use. The right to testify isn't my call. That's the client's call. I've had cases where I was like, bro, whatever you do not go up there and testify. I don't care how many times we practice. Nothing is going to be different when there's people in the jury box, people in the audience, maybe cameras in here, you up there sweating beads. It's going to be different than me in a dry run just giving you examples of cross-examination, how they're going to try to trip you up. And these guys would go up there and it would not go well. But if a defendant wants to testify, that's his right. If he wants to testify and you say, no, you're not testifying, and you don't let him go up there, if he reports you to the bar, you could potentially risk losing your license. Trial strategy, up to the attorney. The right to testify is completely up to the client. Let's share this screen and see if y'all remember this rapper. One of my favorites from back in the day, man.
FBI team now. Michael Tyler, better known by his stage name Mystikal, faced an Ascension Parish. FBI team now. Michael Tyler, better known by his stage name Mystikal, faced an Ascension Parish judge today. He's been locked up since his arrest in 2022 on rape and domestic violence charges. Our Chris Nakamoto spoke to his family and has more on what they had to say in this. Hey, Chris.
Now, this dude has been locked up. This dude has been locked up since 2022 for rape and sexual assault allegations. Okay, still hasn't had trial yet. I know y'all probably like, yo, isn't it a right to a speedy trial? Yes and no. Um, yes, there is a right to a speedy trial. It's very rare that for facts like this, when that's violated, the court is going to be like, you violated his right to a speedy trial. So we're going to dismiss all of these charges. That's generally not going to happen. And sometimes it can be very, very complex trial. Now, I'm just be honest. I think, is this a violation of speedy trial as afforded? Probably yes. I've had these types of cases before as a defense attorney. It's not a fucking complicated case, okay? It's not like it's some complex fucking Ponzi scheme. There's no way that this dude should have been sitting this long and not had a trial. Hey, Mystikal was my guy. I was a no limit. I was a no limit head for real. But yeah, this dude's been sitting in custody since 2022 for these charges with no trial.
Charges. Chris Nakamoto spoke to his family and has more on what they had to say in this. Hey, Chris.
Hey, good evening, Greg. His mom told me she's praying for her son, but family members and his longtime friend declined to comment further today. This is video of them exiting the Ascension Parish Courthouse just after 3 o'clock this afternoon. They were in court all day waiting to hear what a judge would do to update this case. He was wearing a bright orange jumpsuit as he sat there in court with the letters APSO on the back. Mystikal has been held without bond since his 2022 arrest on rape and domestic violence charges. He's entered not guilty pleas to those charges. Today, attorneys for all sides agreed they'll meet again next week to discuss future dates for the case. A gag order is in place in this case, which prohibits attorneys on both sides from speaking about it.
Bro, fucked. Mystikal, you screwed. I don't even know the facts. But the fact that, one, I have heard that those, down in Louisiana, they don't play down there. Like, they'll lock you up. Your trial won't be for 5 damn years. So I have heard that he has no bond. Why does he have no bond? One is because of what he's charged with. Two is probably because they deem him as a flight risk. As long as Mystikal has been in custody, I'll be honest, like maybe when he first got locked up, he probably had some friends in the industry who probably could have helped him facilitate bond. But now in this day and age, in this climate, shit, they could reduce his bond to $1-2 million. If he ain't got it or his family don't got the assets to pull that out, ain't nobody in the industry coming for his rescue because nobody want to be associated with this in light of the current climate when it comes to SA allegations.
A trial date and bond review date could be scheduled soon. For the WAFBI team, I'm Chris Nakamoto. Greg.
That's actually crazy it's actually crazy that bro been there since 2022 with no damn trial. That's actually terrible. Man, southern places you don't want to get locked up at anywhere, but especially down south. Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama. Hell nah. I'm gonna feel like I'm in the movie Life. But yo, that's it for this video. Y'all let me know. I'm gonna stick around real quick if y'all got any questions about what we covered today about Jaden Daniel, not my Commander's quarterback, but the young man who killed his stepfather. I'm really interested in that case because I just want to see how the facts play out. I don't know. I'm not saying somebody can be deleted for no reason, but normally when it's a child taking out a stepfather, normally there's an underlying story involved that we gotta he served time for the same charge. No, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was charged with that previously and convicted, and then he actually ended up getting out of custody, serving that time, and that's when he came out with watch yourself. And then these were actual new charges, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, back in the day, Master P, he was a pillar in the community. I've been hearing stories though that Master P ain't got no bread like that. I can't believe it. I like to think of I did a video back in the day of top 10 hip hop entrepreneurs, and Master P was on that list. I'd like to think that Master P is definitely not broke, but I will tell you, Master P will sell a fucking product that is bad for your health. Them salty ass, over salted ass chips, them hootie hoo sweet ass diabetic cereal. Like, yo, I want to support you, Master P, but goddamn, bro, you trying to kill us out here in these streets. Is it possible that Cassie and her, yo, shout out to you, like, yo, you are like, you about to be co-counsel for the day. You are co-counsel for the day, because this is another thing that I have said to people who ask my thoughts on it. It's not a coincidence that Cassie's husband was also in the circle of Diddy's universe. There was actually email communication that transpired between events happening with Diddy and Cassidy. Cassidy. Shout out to Cassidy. You're not involved in this at all, bruh. Sorry for the stray. But there were events that happened between Diddy and Cassie, and subsequent text messages where Cassie was emailing her now, or text messaging her now husband in relation to those events. So I do think, and I said this from the beginning, I do think there was a little bit of gamesmanship there, in my personal opinion. His ex-wife. Hey, that'll cheaper to keep her, bro. Okay, so you're officially a lawyer. Once you work for a lawyer for about 7 years, you are a lawyer. So shout out to you. You should be able to practice by virtue of apprenticeship. But hey, shout out to you in the questions. Oh, I got one more story. Since we talk about hip hop people in custody, let me pull up. This is the last story I'm gonna pull up. I forgot to talk about this, but I think this is actually interesting. I don't know how much teeth this has, but I actually think this is a very interesting story. I forgot all about this. All right, let's take a look at this. This was 6 days ago. All right, this was 6 days ago. Let's take a look at this, and I want y'all to let me know what y'all think. Let me know what y'all think. I heard this, and I thought this.
As Tory Lanez recovers in a hospital after a prison stabbing attack, his father and supporters gathered today to demand his release.
The former rapper was convicted of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Fox 7's Christopher.
All right, did he shoot Megan Thee Stallion, or is it Cap? What's going on here? Y'all let me know in the comments. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments.
Ardo tells us about the claim of new evidence.
Bringing it to light now was made necessary.
Now, again, let's listen to what his attorneys, his representation have to have. Remember, you have the right to an appeal. You cannot have new evidence and no real legitimate basis based on the facts. Because when you're appealing, you're either saying, yo, I had enough facts where this could have went my way, or there's a law and the law wasn't applied right. And because the law wasn't applied right, I got screwed over. Sometimes, though, people appeal shit just to appeal it, even though they don't have any facts to support an appeal, and the law is not on their side. They just like, you know what? I'm going to make you work for it. Always a bad option. Every client I had who did that, when they subsequently lose at trial because they really had no factual or legal basis to win anything, they always get hit harder because the court feels like their time is being wasted. But if there is new evidence that is exculpatory, meaning it has a tendency to prove the innocent of the accused, that is a legitimate reason for a new trial. So let me know what y'all think about what Tory Lanez attorneys had to say. And is Megan out here making boss moves in prison like she's Heisenberg on Breaking Bad?
Evidence.
Bringing it to light now was made necessary by the events of this week.
Just days after rapper Tory Lanez, also known as Daystar Peterson, was attacked in prison, his attorneys are calling on Governor Newsom to pardon or commute his sentence, insisting they have new evidence Lanez didn't shoot superstar Megan Thee Stallion, but it was instead her former best friend, Kelsey Harris. And they say Harris's one-time bodyguard, Bradley James, was spurred by conscience to come forward.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was with.
Okay, first of all, I want to say normally I'd be like, yo, shout out to Mr. James, but damn, Mr. James, you on some BS. Now you want to come out with what you know, bro. You should have did this a long time ago. Were you scared? Were you scared of somebody? Were you scared that somebody had the means, method, and the resources to reach out and get you clapped like some cheeks? I don't know. But not a shout out to you, because you should have stood on business a long time ago. Your conscience started to kick in, and because your conscience kicked in, I'm not saying because your conscience kicked in, somebody's in the hospital, but it's looking goofy.
To come forward.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Miss Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Walter Roberts says the statement aligns with another witness who saw 2 women fighting. Lanez is serving a 10-year sentence after being convicted of shooting Stallion in the Hollywood Hills back in 2020. The singer testified against Lane and in an op-ed wrote, quote, "Even as a victim, I have been met with skepticism and judgment. We didn't hear back from Stallion's attorney and couldn't reach Harris for comment." Lanez's lawyers say they've had the new evidence for months and were waiting on the appeals court to rule, but went public after he was stabbed in prison.
He was stabbed 14 times.
The rapper's father, Sunstar Peterson, says his son is recovering remarkably well, but recounted the story Lanez told him.
And I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?" And God said, no. God told him, do not give up.
The family and legal team insist Lanez was never given a fair trial, raising questions about the prosecution and investigation, but now say Lanez can't wait for the appellate process to play out.
Now, real quick, not in this video. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But it's an interesting part where his team actually insinuated that his attempted deletion in jail was because of Megan Thee Stallion. Let me see. I want to see if I could find it.
Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James.
Let me see if it's on here.
Mr. James informed us he was working as such. He was the close and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Unite the People. And that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Miss Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight.
Shout out to the Shade Room for this.
One man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. Passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson.
I can't find it. Fuck. But essentially, he says that guy sounds like Barack Obama and Jesse Jackson had a baby. But essentially, the representation says that this information was communicated to Megan Thee Stallion's team. And after this information was communicated to Megan Thee Stallion's team, literally the next day, Tory Lanez got shanked up. The way he presented it was as if he's insinuating that Megan Thee Stallion had could have potentially put some wheels in motion. I don't know how I feel about that, but let me see. Well, let's see. That lawyer is on TV every night. Hey, you got to be out there. What do you think about the Harvey Weinstein retrial? Bruh, I don't know if I don't know what new evidence there is that can make it potentially work out favorable for him. Like real talk, your best approach is the Diddy presidential pardon pay to play potentially route. I don't know what new evidence there is, especially the facts related to Harvey Weinstein. Like that dude was creepy as hell. Like really creepy. Like yeah, birds of a feather. It's creepy as hell. I don't know what new evidence they have that is going to be sufficient to sway a jury of anything counter to what they already convicted him of. Tiffany Henyard right now is probably panicking. She's probably panicking right now because, again, I lost a job and for 6 months I had a 50% pay cut. And that shit was not fun. I was blessed to be in a situation where we didn't have to eat ramen noodles every night, a few nights maybe, but not every night. But luckily, I had things in order. But I can't imagine going from making $300 and something thousand a year to zero, whatever you make on your YouTube channel. Like, when you don't have money coming in, whatever you may have saved up goes so fast. I remember I got out the military. I was like, oh man, it's cool. I had like 30 racks saved up. I'm a young man. I was like, oh, this is going to be sweet. I'm going to get my place. I had a job, but having to pay everything, that money was flying out so goddamn fast. So I think she's in full blown panic mode, trying to find a way to make any income she can. I don't think she's gonna try to make any income she can by like doing Uber Eats or DoorDash. I think she's trying to make any income she can that is 6 figures and something that can be given to her by an appointment or a nomination. Because she definitely doesn't have in my personal opinion, I don't know how she's gonna command $300,000 a year in the private sector doing what. Like, I don't know how she's going to command $200,000 in the private sector doing what. The lawyer with the round eyeglasses is an ambulance chaser. No offense. I think these are more square, right? Aren't these more square? My eyes too tight, so I can't get round eyeglasses. I look like Mr. Magoo, so I got to get the square Malcolm X style. Mm-hmm. His new evidence is money. Hey, money can dissuade some people to forget some things, to not recall information, to have new facts that they forgot about the first trial. Hey, money does some wild things. But yo, I think that Diddy's screwed. I think that Mystikal is equally screwed, but it is terrible that he's been in custody since 2022 on no bond and no trial since 2022. What the fuck? That's crazy. And you know, I don't know. I just think it's a bad look. With regard to Tory Lanez, I hope he recovers. I hope he's transferred. He probably need to be somewhere in protective custody. Real talk, because Tory Lanez like what, 4'5", 5'4", something like that. He a little guy. Like, yeah, he probably need to be somewhere in protective custody. Yeah. Yo, that's it for this video. I'm about to jump off here. It's getting late. Your boy got to get up early tomorrow because I got some work that I got to do that's actually due tomorrow. So it's annoying. As always, I appreciate y'all. We're going to do a regularly scheduled live stream tomorrow. I got a few good topics and I got a good positive story because I always want to put a spin and throw a positive story in the mix. So we're going to talk about it. As always, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'm truly grateful. Shout out to all the channel members. A big salute to you as well. Y'all be safe. Have a good night. Peace.